Hello, everyone, and welcome to SheRunsOnAI. If you're new here, welcome. SheRunsOnAI was created because we believe that the most powerful way to help women embrace AI is by sharing our stories. So, not the hype, not the theory, but real women in real roles sharing what is actually working in their life. So, we exist, Leo, for the women who are already doing a lot, high performing, stretch thin, already using AI in some way, but they know there's a more intentional way to use this technology. And today's guest is someone whose story is going to resonate. She's not only using AI, she's actually building system that helps entire organizations to get this right. Wave two. So today's guest is Kiran Sahota. I met Kiran over 15 years ago. Kiran, I can't believe it has been that long. When we were both working in DC, a lot has happened since then. Kiran, welcome.
Well, thank
Thanks for
you,
joining us.
Adriana and Leo, for having me here. Really appreciate it. And I love the concept and love what you guys are doing. I think it's so important, especially I think for women in the AI space. There's not a lot of us. I did a little bit of research and not a lot of women. I think a few weeks ago, there was Reese Witherspoon had posted something on Instagram or something about kind of her perspective, and it led to like a little bit of, I was surprised, a little backlash or an outrage about it, whatever the public reaction was. And I was like, why? She's just encouraging people, especially women, to learn this new tool because it doesn't matter if it's AI or anything else. Learning and staying on top of the new innovations and new technologies, as anybody, as whether you're kids or whether you're a woman, whoever you are, it's always important to stay informed and stay educated about the things that are happening around you, because then we can't say, why is this happening to me? Right? So if you don't, it will happen to you. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Kiran, I have watched your career take some bold turns since we met in DC. So why don't we start there? Like tell us more about you, where are you joining us from, and how did you get from consulting to building Wave 2?
So yeah, so I've had a very unconventional career path. I'm not sure because I don't know if it's unconventional because it's been mine, but it's been interesting. I graduated from Cal. I was more of a data math person and kind of started working in the consulting space because people needed analysts and people who can build spreadsheets and build some macros. So I was a little dork, math dork, doing that. And loved it. And then I got the opportunity through consulting to say, well, why don't you talk about the analysis you did? And I found that that was like the storytelling became kind of a skill that I acquired, that, hey, I do know these numbers because I crunched them. And so I think that skill kind of evolved into helping me grow my career in consulting, which is where I met Adriana. And after that, I think I've always been a curious person and a lifelong learner. I love learning new things. And it led me to, and part of it is not just like professional growth. And I think one of the interesting things that you never realize it when you're listening to somebody else's advice, but until you go through it yourself. And I know, Adriana, you've experienced this as well, but I left consulting for no like other reason besides the fact that I had a baby and I couldn't keep up with the consulting career path and the amount of travel it required. And my husband also had a job where it required a lot of travel. And we were like, well, what do we do with this baby then? Right. So that's kind of where I chose to leave consulting, and nothing happened because it was planned. It just happened because life made it happen. So I think everything in my life's been that way. So I left consulting. I never thought I'd work in mortgage. So I ended up joining Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage right after consulting. We had moved to Detroit and kind of started off my career there. And I did many different roles through my journey there. Most recently or prior to this current gig, I worked for Rock Ventures and really got to see a broad exposure into just a portfolio of, partially it is the curiosity that led me to there because I'm like, what if we could do this? What if we could do this? Could we do this? And I think it's just kind of, it let my career evolve. Obviously, you have to leave some wins behind to get the opportunity to be able to do what if, right? So, and then very similarly, COVID happened and I had then had my second baby. So returning to work. So like my personal life and my career, it kind of has a lot of intersections to it because I don't believe in work-life balance. I think it's work-life integration because it is life and work is just part of it. So my life has led me to my career moves. And so when I had my second kid, and COVID happened, and my sister lives here around the Pennsylvania area, and she has 4 kids. So she was like, look for a job here. So I then got recruited by Freedom Mortgage because then I was a mortgage lady all of a sudden. And I came in to really help transform the technology department, and I ended up leading technology there for the past 5, 6 years there. And so really been working firsthand, leading team of developers, product managers, et cetera, and just seeing how technology gets built. And I have so much appreciation and empathy now for the builders in the world because it's it's actually very creative field. Contrary to popular belief, engineers aren't just like this way people. They're very creative because you have to be because you're building something that doesn't yet exist that people are going to use, right? So, which led me to my kind of the intersection of AI in the 2021, 2022 timeframe. I want to take everybody kind of by sideways. So started getting hands-on experience, started coding myself, learning how to build products because I figured I couldn't really help my team change and evolve if I didn't learn and change. This was something none of us had seen before. None of us had used it before. So how can I ask my team to use or do some things that I wasn't trying? So that's kind of what led me to building Wave 2 because it's the speed at which people want to use AI. And I'm a full disclosure, big fan of this technology. I know there's two people in the boomer and the doomer categories. I think the truth is somewhere in between because this technology is truly powerful. It is innovative. I do think that if done well, it should solve a lot of world's problems like cancer and climate change, in innovations in medicine and healthcare, taking some of that prices down so they do become affordable. So I think there are a lot of positive things we can do, except I think there's in the media, the shine you hear about all the time is really about like new vibe coded app somebody's created, right? So I think there's things that people just have to do thoughtfully because AI just doesn't transform your business because you all of a sudden have Claude or ChatGPT at your organization. It transforms your business because you change how you work, how your organization is structured, how your org design is designed and architected. So that's precisely why I took the leap to build Wave 2 to work on things that people aren't really working on.
Like, love your journey so much. Thank you for sharing all of that with you. And you said something that kind of like ties back into what I was thinking about asking you regarding governance and how do we bring along people who are still suspicious about the impact that AI can have, right? So you said if done well. In your view, what being done well actually means?
I think with every technology that you're implementing at an organization, it is understand the intention and the outcome that you're looking for. So whether it's automation you are looking for in your business process before AI or with AI, it is like, what's the intended outcome here, right? Are you trying to improve your cycle time? Are you trying to improve your quality? Are you trying to generate new sources of revenue? Are you trying to mitigate risk? Like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And know when you've accomplished it because I think you guys have been in the consulting space, especially Adriana, I know in the strategy space is what's your baseline? How are you going to know if it's done well? And I don't think AI really changes that, but that's a question every strategist, every business leader should have been asking before AI as well. But no, it's like, hey, that's the piece where I think people have to think through it a little bit well, a little bit more refined, because you can't throw AI at everything. AI, or large language models specifically, are probabilistic models. And I think there are a few weeks ago, there was a tweet, or if it's still called a tweet, I don't know, from like Mark Cuban about the fact that, AI is still generating different responses to the same questions with different people. Of course it is, because it is a probabilistic model. It is predicting the next token, it's predicting the next character it's going to give you. So it's not going to give you precisely the same answer to your same question if you asked it at 9 a.m. or 9:15 a.m., right? So that's where you want to think about in your business processes. Like, is to say, if you're in a regulated industry like healthcare, or if you're in financial services, there's places for you to use probabilistic models, but there are a lot of places still where you should continue to use deterministic models, which is not so currently sexy technology. This is the old school rules engine, machine learned models, the algorithms we already have, because Netflix can get away with giving me a crappy recommendation on a show I should watch, right? Because it's not impacting underwriting decision for the mortgage I'm going to take on my house. It is whether I'm going to choose to watch what it's recommending. So just know where to use it, which is why I think understanding becomes important. And that's where I think the conversation around strategy becomes more important, because rather than just saying to your teams, why aren't we seeing the efficiency gains or the value or the ROI from the question is, have you done the thinking and the work that you need to do to make sure that you're implementing this technology in the places it's best suited for? So I think that's where what I mean by this done right. And many other organizations, I think some folks I talk to, they don't even know what tools their people are using, because you could be using, people are bringing their personal GPT logins to work if the work doesn't sanction one. So are there ways to do it responsibly? Yes, maybe you should invest in an enterprise account. At least you have a contained environment where you operate. Really figure out what models folks are using, have some level of monitoring, because if you are working in an enterprise, you're dealing with some sort of confidential or sensitive data, right? It's not yours. So in regulated industry, I'll keep saying that over and over again because I've been working in one for the past decade, but that customer data isn't our data. It's the customer's data. So in few years from now, will there potentially be lawsuits about using unintended consequences, right? We may have unintentionally used some data for training models, which is more of a customer data, but did we have a right to do so? So I think it's just really asking those questions before you jump into the AI bandwagon, because I do think it's an incredibly powerful piece of technology that we will ever see in our lifetime, but I think it's okay to take a moment to do it right.
And it applies for everything, right? We are just happen to have to be talking about AI, but like ideally for every single major change that you make, you are taking the time to design the strategy on why that change, how we're going to implement it, what are the guardrails. So it applies for everything, but we're just happen to be talking about AI.
Yeah, it's same thing. Like, your risk officers should be concerned. I think just a few weeks ago in New York, when Anthropic kind of had its briefing on financial services, and Jamie Dimon and Dario were both speaking to it. And I think they're right. They're trying to, share that message broadly with the world, that Jamie Dimon shared how cyber risk is now number one priority for JP Morgan, and how even with the release of the Mythos model from Anthropic, they've kind of gotten a very small group of people to clear out their vulnerabilities, because this is a technology that, you know, good guys have it, but bad guys have it too. The difference is bad guys don't follow rules. So we need to make sure that we are, at least the good guys are doing this well, are doing this thoughtfully, deploying things in the right places, being cautionary. So I empathize with every risk leader that's out there who's trying to contain this while the business is trying to like pedal to the metal and the IT team is trying to figure out how to deliver the outcomes. So that's where like I empathize with some of those executives or leaders in those roles, because it's hard to balance all of these things right now.
So, Kiran, thank you for sharing, your view of what enterprises should be doing. And I think it's very relevant because it also applies to what we need to do as individuals as we think of building our AI operating system. And Leo and I have been working on this for a bit, and we're excited to share more soon. But that first step has to do with understanding your why and get clear on what you're trying to solve. And there will questions that will come up. Should I be using AI to make medical decisions? What information should I be sharing? We know that AI operates best the more context you give it to, right? But that could mean, like, are you going to give it all? There's a lot of sensitive data, and that's a personal decision, just as organizations need to be thinking of what is their stance with AI, what they believe. Their use of AI should mimic, hopefully, those values, those principles. So if thinking of our personal AI use, I think everything that you said, it applies exactly the same. So I'm very interested to now move to kind of your AI practices, Kira. Like, can you share with us, because you have been experimenting, as you said, for a while now. How are you using it, and how has that evolved over the years?
I use it primarily for writing code, and I review the code. And then I think my view has evolved with the technology. It's gotten better over the years for sure. Like everybody talks about it, everybody knows that it's getting better every single day. And I think I'll kind of draw a parallel from work and to my personal life. So even within kind of we were using it and I was leading the technology team, I'm using it writing code. And then I realized that okay, I needed to be so much more clear about what I want in there. So again, the word intention becomes important. The word outcome becomes important because you're trying to think about like, okay, what am I trying to accomplish here? Oh, and then actually understanding when it responds to you and knowing when it's not giving you a good response. And then even in my process, I was like, okay, it's just coding right now. I need to review it. How am I going to deploy it? How am I going to run tests on it? How do I stay SOC compliant to make sure that all of the processes are still being followed? Because it made me think about my entire ecosystem, not just like the one task of writing code, right? Because like coding agent is doing so. So take that parallel to your personal life. Like I said, I use it more for like planning vacations, coming up with recipes, or coming up with games to play with my kids. So my kids have a free chat GPT thing where they come up with like playful games, etc. So like that's kind of the limit I have kept it to, because you're 100% right that there's two components when you're using these AI tools in personal life. So there's context, which is like in session memory of like when you're by session, it's like your chat that you're in. It's kind of retaining what's the context you're sharing with it. Yes, more context is better. I highly do not recommend uploading your HIPAA information into there, because there's reasons hospitals make you sign all those pieces of paper. Right? So you definitely don't want to be floating that thing around. And then the second piece is actually memory in these tools, which is across all of the various chats or instances you may have. So knowing what's being retained there, because think about it, I think a few years ago, my husband was paranoid that like our TV was listening to us, and he was like, "Oh, we're not gonna have Alexa in the house anymore." When I talked about like garden hose, all of a sudden I'm seeing garden hose advertisements, and he went like literally the same thing, except it now knows so much more because you're voluntarily giving it information. At least with previous technologies, it was slightly felt involuntary because you had to like verbally, like you had to consent, or you had to get to a place to be able to share that. It's like your search history. Like, not too much can be found from your search history. But here you're like, can you file my taxes for me? And it's like, okay, do you really want to put that in there? So I think things that you should be, those are kind of the watch outs from your personal standpoint, what is your personal sensitive information? What is your confidential information that you don't want to be putting in there? But it's interesting. I was reading some research over the past few months around just how people are using it. Actually, the biggest use of these agents or these AIs is people are using it for financial advice, career advice, relationship advice. And so when I read that, I was like, that's kind of sad. It just shows you how lonely we are, that we are we're willing to take advice from a chatbot, an empathetic chatbot who won't say no to me about anything, about my feelings about a certain thing, who's so agreeable that actually Anthropic's taken that research and is actually using that research, their chat history and the data from there, to make the AI not be so empathetic and really be able to question the person on it. So I'm not saying that those things are bad things to use it for, but I think it's just such person dependent to be able to do that. But I've highly cautioned it. Yes, if you wanted to respond to your LinkedIn DMs, if you want to have it schedule things for you in your life, those are things that are easy things, like especially for working moms or working parents. Like there are things it can help you augment and make your life much easier. There's so many use cases for that you can do that. That's what I limit it to. I'm not going to go ask it to do my taxes or do some healthcare diagnosis on for me just yet, until it becomes super private and I feel like I can, and there's an actual physician on the other line. If I choose to say no, I want a person's advice, I can actually go to a person. So I think until we get to that place, I would just say use the same common sense that you've been using for a while. Our parents used to like lock up our personal information like passports and birth certificates and all these important numbers in like a safe. Now, if we're just going to put them in a chat bot, like think twice. So use common sense. I would say, the advice I just share is like general, but for women specifically, I think use it as we're probably least likely at work or other places, like least likely to ask for help or ask for advice or, just like, hey, help me. Um, if I'm going to do a presentation or a speech or something, it's like, hey, can you review this with me? Use it in that way. Use it in a way that's going to help you. Use it. That's number one advice. Use it carefully would be my number two advice. And number three is use it to help you in the moments that you're like, okay, uncomfortable in like a workplace. It's like, hey, review this presentation for me. I'm about to walk into this meeting. Here's what I'm planning on presenting. Am I missing anything? So use it for the things, to use it to help you in the areas where you may have thought about, well, who can I ask? Well, I think here's a little bot that can probably help you, but just do it responsibly.
I love that. I love that advice. This is exactly why we wanted to have these conversations, why we created this channel. So thank you for your time, Kiran. For those of you who are listening, if this resonated with you, please subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next conversation. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Instagram, and you can learn more about who we are, what we're building, and the story behind it. And if you are, of course, in the AI space or leading a team that is trying to figure out how to actually make AI work inside your organization, go check out what Kiran has built. Head to wave2.ai. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Kiran.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.